I'm Matt McClure, and this is Currents. Who is the jolly old man in the red suit who brings gifts to good boys and girls? Well, one group says he might just be the patron saint of the Occupy movement. I'll get the lowdown from Occupy Catholics. Plus, on this feast day of good old St. Nick, we ask, just what is a saint anyway? St. John's University has the answer.
We're all called to be saints. We're all called to someday be on that holy card.
And there is no way Santa could miss this house from his sleigh. Rudolph's red nose isn't the only thing shining bright as a local family lights up for the season.
And just to see all the awe and all the amazement in the children's faces was such a great feeling.
Well, good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. Every year on Christmas Eve, NORAD satellites track Santa's Christmas Eve flight as the man in red delivers gifts to girls and boys across the globe. Now, that may be a few weeks away, but jolly old St. Nick was already on the minds of Catholics. Today, his feast day. And while you may think he's from the North Pole, St. Nick's origins actually lie in modern-day Turkey. Rome Reports has more on the details of the life of this celebrated saint.
December 6th is the feast day of St. Nicholas of Bari, otherwise known as Santa Claus. He was bishop of the city of Mayda in present-day Turkey, where he died in the 4th century. When the city was conquered by Muslims, his remains were moved to the Italian city of Bari. When his parents died, he divided his fortune among the poor. Because of his generosity, tradition remembers him as Santa Claus, who every year would deliver gifts to everyone. He is also the patron saint of Russia, Greece, and Turkey. In Rome, a temple was built in his honor by the year 550. There are currently over 2,000 churches in the world that carry his name.
Well, during this Advent season, St. Nicholas has also taken on a new role. He's become the symbolic patron for Catholics who want to have their voices heard as part of the Occupy movement. According to the group's website, Occupy Catholics are the 99% made in God's image, seeking God's justice. Occupy Catholics is still in its early stages, and joining me now on the phone is one of the men behind it, Jeffrey Nicholas. He's an associate professor of philosophy at Mount Angel Seminary in Benedict, Oregon. Jeffrey, thanks so much for taking a few minutes to join us today. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me on. Thank you.
Well, of course, I have to say your last name is Nicholas, so any relation to St. Nicholas at all?
Well, who knows down the line of history. He's from Turkey. My origins are in Greece, so that's pretty close from my point of view. I don't know.
Yeah, if you look at the globe, that is not very far apart at all. Well, a lot of people might say, though, getting to a little bit more of a serious note here, that St. Nicholas might seem like kind of an odd thing. Of course, everybody associates St. Nicholas as Santa and Santa Claus as being one and the same. Might say, okay, well, Santa Claus is a little bit odd, maybe, to have as associated with the Occupy movement. What is it about St. Nick that makes him maybe a possible patron of this movement?
Well, I think what's really important about St. Nicholas is really the inspiration behind what today we call Santa Claus, and that is the way that he gave of himself and he gave to others. So one of the most important stories that we know about St. Nicholas, of course, is his giving money through the window at night to these 3 maidens so that they did not have to turn to prostitution to live their lives. And that certainly is responding to the need in the community. It was no fault of their own that they needed this money, and it was no fault of their own that the laws were set up so that they could not marry without a dowry. And St. Nicholas provided where that need was, and he called out that unjust association there. And so today, when we see people who are homeless through no fault of their own, through the laws that have been made, St. Nicholas certainly comes to mind as a patron for those of us who are working to really unite together to develop the common good of our society.
And did the Occupy movement need some sort of spiritual foundation? I mean, do you find that the people that are, I guess, involved in Occupy, do you find them sort of welcoming to this sort of, I guess, spiritual undertones of what you're, or spiritual overtones, really, of what you're doing? Or do you find them to be, I don't know, a little bit sort of standoffish toward bringing too much of the spiritual into it?
Well, I think there's certainly an openness there among people at the Occupy movement towards the spiritual and towards this notion of God as love. I was at the Occupy Portland movement on the first day of their march, and there were plenty of people there who were engaged in prayer, who had signs of faith there. So many people introduced themselves as this sort of religious person or that sort of religious person. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody in the Occupy movement is religious, but as Jacques Maritain tells us in his discussion of natural law, a Christian state doesn't mean that everyone has to be Christian. It just means that we have Christian principles that provide the foundation for that state. I think that's certainly what we have in the Occupy movement.
There was an article, I believe it was in America Magazine, I could be wrong about that, but the title of it anyway was, "Where Are the Catholics?" And when this movement began, where were all the Catholics, and why has it taken, at least seemingly, just from looking from the outside in, it's kind of taken a while for Catholics to get involved? Why is that?
Well, I think there are various reasons. One is lack of information. The other are the focus in our church on particular issues, and we're slowly looking now at what this homeless situation means for Catholics, for Catholic families, for the local community of Catholic churches. And you know, when you have something like the Occupy movement come along, and it's sort of this wave that washes across the nation, and you have to stop for a moment because you don't want to get involved in something that you don't know enough about. And I think as we learn more about it, we can see the very Christian elements that underlie that movement. And I think that's what's happening now. That's why we're able to get a notice in America Magazine. That's why we're able to have this Facebook dedicated to Occupy Catholics. We've been saying novenas to St. Nicholas. I started a novena to St. Nicholas the first day that Occupy Portland marched. We have another novena going on right now. And then today, after the novena ends today, we're going to start praying the Magnificat to lead up to Our Lady of Guadalupe Day. So I think Catholics are becoming more aware of this, and I think that's certainly a positive thing.
Well, it seems to be growing and growing. Jeffrey Nicholas, Associate Professor of Philosophy and also one of the men behind Occupy Catholics. Thanks so much for coming on and talking to us about it, and we really appreciate it. We'll keep in touch as things go along with the movement, because, you know, it's had its ups and downs, but we have definitely not heard the last of it, I'm sure.
I think that's true, and thanks for having me on.
Thanks a lot. Well, there's more currents ahead. More violence against Christians in Pakistan. We'll have that story and the rest of the day's headlines next. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Matt McClure. Coming up in just a bit, we'll take you to a house in Brooklyn where the Christmas decorating is really out of this world. First, though, let's have a look at the day's headlines. Well, it looks like there is an agreement on taxes in Albany. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo and lawmakers have reportedly reached a deal that would exempt parochial and private schools from the MTA payroll tax. Now, under that agreement, the tax will be cut by $250 million and would be reduced for small businesses. An initial proposal exempted only public schools. The New York State Catholic Conference had said that that would unfairly burden parochial and private schools, which would have been forced to raise tuition to cover the cost. Now, the agreement is part of an overall deal that would raise taxes for the wealthiest New Yorkers and cut them for the middle class. The nation's highest court says it will not hear an appeal of New York City's ban on churches holding worship services in public schools. That means a lower court's ruling that the ban does not violate the Bronx Household of Faith's free speech rights will stand. The city argued that allowing churches to use public buildings for worship services could be seen as an endorsement of religion. Now, religious groups are still allowed to use the buildings for other purposes, just not worship services, but those services must stop by February. Now, it could be coming to a radio near you soon. The U.S. Bishop's Department of Justice, Peace, and Human Development has created new ads urging Catholics to take an active role in efforts to fight poverty overseas.
I'm Bishop Howard Hubbard, As Catholics, we are called to protect our sisters and brothers living in poverty. Poverty-focused international assistance that fights disease and hunger is less than 1% of the budget and is at risk. We must preserve these programs. Please contact your members of Congress. For more information, text Cuts Cost Lives to 30644 or go to crs.org/global poverty.
Now that ad, along with the 60-second version, features the voice of Albany Bishop Howard Hubbard, who chairs the Bishops' Committee for International Justice and Peace. The bishops have also been outspoken in urging Congress to not make cuts that would affect the poorest and most vulnerable Americans. Well, a priest in Pakistan says an 18-year-old Catholic girl is a martyr after she was killed for resisting a rape attempt and refusing to convert to Islam. The Vatican news agency Fidesz reports that a Muslim man kidnapped the girl and planned on marrying her. The priest says the suspect is behind bars and police are investigating. Fidesz reports a Muslim delegation met with the family to express its solidarity with them. Well, in other news from Pakistan, police reportedly arrested and beat a Christian couple after the husband and wife were accused of a crime they say they did not commit. The wife, who is a maid, is accused of stealing jewels from the house where she worked. Fidesz reports the couple were arrested without any evidence and they were beaten for 3 days. The woman, who is pregnant, is in critical condition. Her husband says police told him he would be released if he renounced Christianity and converted to Islam. The Catholic Church in Sri Lanka says it will boycott all government functions until Christmas. The move comes after officials raided a children's home run by Mother Teresa's Missionaries of Charity. The police had raided the center and arrested one of the nuns, charging her with selling children to adoptive parents. She was later released on bail. Police say at least 2 underage pregnant girls were discovered in the nuns' convent, and that failure to disclose that information to the authorities was against the law. The head of Sri Lanka's Catholic Church says he objects to the allegations. 3 people behind a horror movie in India were arrested for reportedly offending religious sensibilities. Police arrested the director, producer, and publicist of the film called Who's There? Reports say advertisements for the movie included an upside-down crucifix and a depiction of Christ on the cross being stabbed. A caption on the ads included the phrase, quote, "This time evil will win." Now, at least 2 Catholic groups have called for the most severe punishment possible. Back in this country, high winds in Albuquerque, New Mexico, toppled a historic tree but left a carving of Our Lady of Guadalupe inside it intact. Reports say a veteran made the carving in 1959 as thanks after returning unharmed from the Korean War. A priest says the winds split the tree and knocked part of it on top of his church, but did not do any major damage. And he says it's not clear if the tree will have to be removed, but the carving of Our Lady of Guadalupe will be preserved. Well, for one Idaho family, a search for a Christmas tree this year turned into an adventure they were not expecting. Reporter Justin Core has the story.
We've been up all night.
As of noon on Sunday, Brian Pollard wasn't sure where his daughter Megan was or if she was safe.
They weren't prepared to spend the night.
Brian's brother-in-law Justin took his family, which included another adult and 3 kids, and Megan, into the mountains on Saturday to find a Christmas tree. They didn't come back that night.
We have somebody out on the mountain somewhere that can't get back here.
Brian wasn't even sure where they were headed, so Idaho State Police, Elmore County deputies, friends, and family were searching in a huge area that stretched from Prairie to Bogus Basin.
Sydney, which one, Shelby?
When the call came.
Where are you? You are in Idaho City at the ranger station.
Oh my God.
Okay. Oh, thank God.
Justin's on the phone.
Justin had taken a wrong turn, tried to turn around, but the truck was stuck.
Hey.
You okay?
I'm freaking cold, but yeah.
Okay, man. Everybody else okay?
Yeah, the truck is tight there. We're gonna need a winch to get it out.
Not a problem. Don't worry about the truck.
Okay, they found it. But yeah, the kids are all fine. Leaks is fine.
Okay, let's go.
Leaving everyone safe at the truck, Justin walked out Sunday morning, getting to the highway around noon.
We're really relieved. You never want to be in that situation. So we had faith that Justin was going to be able to pull it off. We'll have to hear from him how it was spending the night on the mountain.
The family search parties turned into rescue parties to pick up Justin in Idaho City and the other 5 from the truck on Swan Home Road.
Everybody's kind of going to get back here tonight and get warmed up.
Glad to hear everybody's okay. That report from Justin Core. And here is a possible stocking stuffer for all the stamp collectors out there. Vatican City has issued a set of 5 stamps to commemorate Pope Benedict's apostolic trips in 2010. Included in the set are a depiction of Pope Benedict along with Westminster Abbey and an image of Cardinal John Henry Newman. Now, Benedict traveled to the United Kingdom to beatify Newman last year. He was also the first pope ever to visit Westminster Abbey. In 2010, Benedict also traveled to Malta, Portugal, Cyprus, and Spain. Stay with us. There's more currents ahead. Coming up, when it comes to saints, if you've got questions, they've got answers.
A saint is the one who has the confessional attitude. A saint is the one who reveals everything to God.
Welcome back. As we told you earlier in the show, today was the feast day of St. Nicholas, popularly known these days as Santa Claus, of course. But St. Nick is just one of the many saints recognized by the Catholic Church, and that begs the question, just what is a saint anyway? And what does it take to become a saint? Well, we got a taste of that earlier this year when Pope Benedict beatified his predecessor, Pope John Paul II. Beatification is just one step away from sainthood and comes after the Church determines that the person in question interceded in some miraculous occurrence. In John Paul's case, a nun who had Parkinson's disease was cured after praying for the late pontiff's assistance. Now, John Paul needs one more confirmed miracle to be declared a saint. But there's much more to the story than that, and for answers on what it takes to make a saint, we went to a recent 3 Things talk at St. John's University.
What is a saint? We're all called to be saints. We're all called to someday be on that holy card.
Every year now we're running 3 Things talks, 3 points on a particular topic. Today's particular session actually was on the saints.
In my life, I grew up as somebody who knew my faith a little bit, but not well. Once I started to read the saints, to see the life of peace, the life of love, the life of holiness, I was attracted to it.
Originally, my theology professor brought me here today, but I was very enlightened to come. I actually was really wondering because I'm Hindu. In Hinduism, there isn't saints. We just have one God in many forms. So I think the idea of a saint is something holy. So it's kind of similar to a lot that I've learned about.
A saint is the one who has the confessional attitude. A saint is the one who reveals everything to God. You see, the Father reveals everything to the Son reveals everything to the Father in the Holy Spirit. So God holds nothing back, and he asks the saints to be brought into that Trinitarian love where everything is revealed.
As a rule, instances of direct invocation of the saints in Catholic liturgy are remarkably few, yet they are not entirely absent.
I would never suggest that the liturgy is the only source for devotion to saints or veneration of saints. I'm also quite in favor of what we might call more popular forms of devotion to the saints outside of the liturgy.
A number of years ago, I was talking to a woman, and she basically ascribed her husband to St. Anne. This was a new one for me. And there was a prayer, "Good St. Anne, send me a man as fast as you can," all right?
I personally have a devotion to the saints as well. My patron saint is St. Christopher. Now he's been taken out of the calendar, but I still have a devotion to him. That he's the patron saint of travelers, and I love to travel.
In fact, Edith Stein wrote that if anybody comes to her, now this was from a letter that she wrote while she was alive. I don't think she had any premonition of being canonized a saint, but she's just said that anybody who comes to her, even just as a friend in life, she wants to point them towards God.
I did my doctoral work on Edith Stein.
I worked really hard on that paper, on that dissertation, as all PhD students do. And when I finally went to hand in the multiple copies for the different readers, I went to an office, and there was a woman there who I never met before. And she said her name was Edith. And Edith is the way you would say Edith in German. And then when I was leaving, she said, "Thank you for doing this." And I guess, walked away kind of with a smile on my face and said, yeah, I know she's nearby.
Like that earlier in the piece, you know, St. Anne, send me a man as fast as you can. That's almost like, what was the other one? Mother Cabrini, find a spot for my little machine, you know, if you're looking for a parking space. Those are kind of in the same sort of little jokey prayer category there. Love them, though. Stay with us. There's more Currents ahead. When we return, no, this is not a theme park. It's a local family's Christmas light display.
I'm a Christian, and I think Christmas is more than these lights, but it also helps to set you into the mood of peace, goodwill, and, you know, togetherness with one another.
Well, finally tonight, if you happen to be driving through Canarsie at this time of year and you see something shining bright in the distance, it's safe to say that despite the sometimes chilly temperatures, no, it's not the aurora borealis, and no, it's not a UFO. It's actually one local family's annual Christmas display. Yes, and what a display it is. There are lights, thousands of them as a matter of fact. There's a Ferris wheel, there are children's TV and storybook characters, and much, much more. It's a tradition that's been ongoing since 1963, and we were there this past Sunday as the Serio family flicked the switch on this year's decorations.
This is our annual Christmas display. We've been putting it on. I've been doing it for about 24 years now.
Well, thank you.
Very good. Prior to that, it was done for about 22 years by the previous owner of the house, Frank Guarino. We put the lights on the first Sunday in December every year and keep them on till the Feast of the Epiphany on January 6th. Quite frankly, it's the largest and the best Christmas display in New York City.
Every Christmas, my father would take us, me, my sister, and my brother in the van, and we would come over here and we would just look in awe at this site. But I've never been involved in the display until now that I'm working actually as a lawyer within the office. Everything that goes into the holiday, you see it epitomized in this display. It's an interesting experience because I actually take part in actually putting it together. On the opening night, you can just see everybody coming, not just from the neighborhood, but coming outside of the borough, coming from all different places. It really brings out the spirit of this holiday.
The light will be flipped on, all the lights will go on, all of the magic will occur.
3, 2, 1. Press the button, man.
It's a great time. It's really, look at those smiles. That's what it's all about.
We start the night with a choir from one of our local churches. This year it's Mary, Queen of Heaven. And we have the chorus of Public School 115 this year for the 10th year in a row.
As a Christian, we believe that Jesus came to bring all people together. It's a time for people of all faiths and religion beliefs to come together to celebrate God's presence with us. We have a God that loves us all and wants us to be together and live together, and this season does just that.
I like it because it's like the whole community comes together. I'm excited to be here this year because there are new characters and stuff like that. I like Barney the most because that used to be my favorite show.
We have almost $350,000 worth of Christmas decorations on this house. We have a skating ring. This is our newest piece this year with the Smurfs skating around. And of course, Tippy, our parrot, who came right from the Caribbean. We flew him in.
I love the Caribbean, but I like Brooklyn.
I'm a Christian, and I think Christmas is more than these lights, but it also helps to set you into the mood of enjoying peace, goodwill, and, you know, togetherness with one another.
And just to see all the awe and all the amazement in the children's faces was such a great feeling. As you look at them, I can just see exactly the way that I felt when I was their age, looking at it.
Merry Christmas, everybody! Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas!
It's something that those kids can remember for the rest of their lives. Great memories being made right here in the Diocese of Brooklyn. And man, I'm telling you, it's a great time of the year for all of those wonderful memories, and we'll continue to hopefully make some good ones for you right here on Currents. Well, that's it for this edition of the show. Now, coming up tomorrow, as the song goes, Christmas time is here, and a local parish celebrates with music, an evening of lessons and carols, as a matter of fact. Until then, though, be sure and visit us online over at currentsny.net. You can also connect with us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter there as well. If you have a question, comment, or story idea, you can send it to us in the email. Also, our email address is dropusaline@currentsny.net. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Matt McClure. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great night.